It began at the river, in a valley of forgotten baobabs and golden grass-velds. Thongi-Serougii and Uma-Undar are a people of two jarring clans who have come a long way to end the war. A long history of generational vengeance upon another, until the river intervened. Anyone is forbidden from crossing to the other side. That way you keep to your people, and I will keep to mine, and peace will flourish where once spilled blood. But when Moungi, a son of the Thongi-Serougii family, falls in love with Ninua, a daughter of the Uma-Undar family from across the river, a new era arises, a chance to join the two clans by a marriage that bets a child that could unite them. Long ago, before Lesira was marked by conquest of ren lords, gold reefs and diamond fields, heroes of a different kind walked it, hunted it, farmed it and drank from it. They ruled it with spears, not crowns or legislations. They named it after their ancestors and wrote history with songs that now only linger in the quietest of winds. Linger but a little longer and you will hear. Chapter 1. The House of Thongi-Serougii. The fire burnt fiercely on the hearth, and the smell of grill smoked invitingly into the air. For 5 lions were about to dine on this quiet winter's evening at the Lawa, the house of arms where warriors spent most of their time together when not in the battlefield. Tonight was not different from any other evening in the valley of Muma. But for the 5, no day went unscathed by their raving voices that sang and recited their feats amongst each other, till one by one they dozed off and continued in their dreams. So loud they sang, Langa, the spirit of the river, could hear them down at the banks. "Why should I fear crossing the river?" one of the lions was saying. "I could send a duck and it would come out on the other side without a scratch. Our own women sing the bow better than those Uma-Undar boys can shoot." Behind him, his shadow danced from the flicker of the flames, cast on the Dutch wall as if it had a life of its own. His skin was dark and sweaty, for he was always fuming like the restless god imprisoned inside his human flesh. His eyes glimmered under a headband made out of a leopard skin. Umqele, the warrior's royal headband on which Insiba, a single black quill, stamped tall above his head. It came from the wing of Ukova, who were a race of giant owls that built their eyries on the crests of Dwalenamendi, the great mountain range of Lesira. Their talons were the clutch of death itself, their wings beat with the force of a hurricane, until the boy hunted and killed one of them with his bare hands and brought the quill home as a mark of his victory. Only then did he pass his rite of passage and became a warrior. "You dare not cross, Sundo," disapproved another lion, the eldest of the 5, whose name was Tingo. Tingo's Insiba was a slight taller than the rest, in fact, the tallest in the stronghold after the one on his father's head. Yes, the quill grew even after it was long plucked out of the wing from whence it came. The taller the quill, the greater the man's stature among his people. Unlike his brothers who were heated up with excitement, Tingo still wore his blanket despite the warm fire. Isena Marena, the tribal blanket of the Bahure people. The fire seemed to have no effect on him as he turned the grill with his bare hands. "No one is to travel the other shore without the horse's permission," he said, cautioning with a voice that boasted authority over his younger siblings. "That horsey is my father, and he owns the river and the land," declared Sundo, the lion who spoke earlier, beating his chest proudly. Then he started chanting, and the others joined him, dancing around the fire. Their song told the deeds of Nongo, the name of a great man in Muima, whose reign ruled the Thongi-Serougii family who lived this side of the river. Before him, Nongo's grandfathers conquered many brothers of the land and raised the stronghold to the Thongi-Serougii bloodline. These 5 here would see that it stays that way for future generations to come. Come or not come, rise or fall, it didn't matter for Langa, the spirit of the river. She had watched the children of Lesira come and go like falling leaves every spring and winter. She was there long before they were born, and had seen their grandfathers and their fathers before them. She had known the soil they walked, tilled and sown, before Badimo, their ancestors named it Lesira, land of the rising sun. And her, they named it after it, the sun that is, which in their language means Langa. For her springs nourished the land beneath his rays, passing bushveld and baobab and every woodland there was, through the rolling hills and the golden plains, spanning the valleys and ravines season after season. The valley of Muma, or the river valley as it was called by outsiders, came last on her journey, south as she turned west and finally spilled her waters at the mouths of the sea. Whatever it is that caught her thought and made her linger at the Lawa that evening, who can tell? I have seen the rise and fall of mighty warriors before, she reflected as she listened to the 5 young warriors, letting her waters sigh with the southwestern current on its way to the ocean's pass. I was there when the first spear was forged. I was there when the first drop of blood was spilled. To me, the story of these people is like the passing of a breath in a swell storm of time. Let the mamas sing fighters' deeds, brothers, another lion challenged as soon as they stopped chanting. His name was Mumundi, third of his father's name and the loudest of the 5. You and I have our own titles to contend, our own wars to wage, and our own names to write in the songs of heroes. Ah, so says the warrior with the golden quill, said Dingo. Your name is already in the songs of heroes. You are Leliho, golden-haired reborn. Curse your foul tongue! I'm not a spawn of the Zungus, and I will make my own name where Leliho's name was written. Aye, Mumundi held another name among warriors, though he refused to acknowledge it. His Insiba was not black, but golden-colored, same as Leliho Golden-Haired, the hero of all warriors who was believed to reincarnate once every generation of warriors. Only one may receive the golden Insiba after slaying the fated Okova, during when the boys go to the mountains to end their manhood and warriorhood. What glory-mongering fools they are! Generations of generations, hunting the most beautiful children I ever bore to Lesira. So long, the spirit of the river thought, remembering a time when a very daring warrior ancestor once walked this land and drank from her waters. He is the one who began it, Leliho. Now Okova shall follow after the Tao. Tao. Tao is the Bahura word for the lion that once hunted the wilderness before the warriors wiped out its kind from the face of Lesira. In ancient days, warriors performed a second rite of passage by slaying a Tao, again with one's bare hands. For legend told that Lelicho not only defeated the beast, but could skin change into one during his day. None of you know who Lelicho was, Langa would have told them if they asked her. On another day, she imagines endless hailstorms flooding the valley and drowning the Bahura people's home as punishment for Lelicho's crimes. On another day, she feels already avenged, for these warriors lived for death and worshipped the very spears that drank each other's blood. Death and grief was bound to them, as much as strength, valor, and glory flourished in their veins. Let them sing Lelicho, Lelicho, Langa cursed them, as she did every time she remembered. Let each one dream of that day, that like Lelicho, they will wear the strength of a Tao and make the mountains echo their names till the breaking of the world. Lelicho is a story of the past, Tingo, said Mumundi back at the Lao, where the 5 lions were still singing their feats to come. Tomorrow they will sing Mumundi, Mumundi, he cried. They will sing Tingo, Sundo, they will sing Longi, they will sing Moungi. 5 sons, warrior born from womb to the belly of the Tao and back. Ah, and what shall they say of Sundo? Sundo stood on his feet as if ready to go to battle. Tomorrow at first light, I will cross the river, step on the other side and knock down the head of one of the Uma-Undar boys before the rest flee from me. Then I will swim back with it. The others were already booing at him even before he finished his sentence. And give it to you boys to argue among yourselves who can throw it back without falling in the water, which we all know can only be done by me. I could do that with my eyes closed and for it, said another lion, the one whose name was Longi. Longi held a dagger and a stick on his hands, from which a pile of raw sticks would turn into a stack of arrows come the morning. As he carved each one, he imagined it piercing an enemy's skin, then he imagined it strike down the bow of his next hunt. I could do it with my hands and legs tied. Sundo extended his challenge. Eyes, hands and legs! Tie me to a sack of maize meal and I will still claim the feat, brothers, Mumundi challenged further. Then put your golden crown and bet on it, called Sundo. Before they could bet and best each other further, Tingo broke in as he always did, again cautioning them against provoking the people on the other side of the Langa River. Forget it, brothers, he said. There hasn't been a war between us and the Uma-Undars since Father forged the peace, and by his word, none of you may cross the river. Yes, there was another clan that rivaled the Thongi-Serougii, one that ruled the land south of the Langa River. That was the Uma-Undar family, the house of the enemy whose boys these 5 were musing about thrusting and ripping the guts off. The boys of the house of Uma-Undar were also musing about the same thing, thrusting and ripping the guts of the Thongi-Serougii boys. Their fathers and fathers before them did the same in their youth. So will their sons when their time comes. A warrior is not remembered by his words, but by his deeds. Isn't that one of Father's old sayings, O wise Tingo? Asked Mumundi, making a fool's expression on his face. Then you better hope killing one of his sons does not make it to his list of deeds one of these days, Tingo answered. Killing one of his sons for taking the spear to the enemy? An enemy we have now made peace with, not war. Oh, he won't need to kill you with his own hands, Mumundi, you mad son of my father, said Longi, adding a new arrow to the stack. If you cross the river, you will die. From what? Asked Mumundi, pretending he didn't know the answer to the question. Die from drowning? Ah, die from drowning. Langa finished the thought, still quietly listening from the river banks. It would not be the first time she ended her life for trying to cross her waters. She was the spite of many boys as they stood on either side of her banks, drawing curses and daring each other to a ferd that began long before they were born. Better drawing curses than drawing spears, she thought, as she recalls ferrying red water, a blood-stained river all those years ago. Battle after battle, each one began with some stupid brawl talk, such as this one the five were having this evening. Sometimes it was about avenging one's ancestor whose bones turned to dust long ago, who appeared in a dream after an evening of drinking and smoking. Sometimes it was a goat thief or a tokoloshi sent from the other side. Sometimes it was a woman, the most beautiful woman in the valley, that drove men to fight each other for her hand in marriage. Whatever it was, it always ended with blood on the other shore. You are right, Dingo, said Longi, when it seemed that their excitement was about to go quiet. Father's rule forbids us from crossing the river, but it does not say there shall be no throwing. Yebo, agreed Mumundi and Sundi at the same time. And so the excitement started all over again. We can do a hammer throw and find out who can toss the biggest rock over. I vote a hammer throw wreathed in fire. I say we wrap it with stingers. Let all the stronghold of Uma-Undar scratch their asses for another week. Umahashahasha, or the stinger bomb as they called it, was a poisonous knot that exploded with tiny hair particles that caused a deadly rash on the skin. The warriors tied a bundle of them on a rock and threw them at the enemy, which when it crushed, spread all over the place and sent victims screaming. There will be no throwing of whatsoever across that river, brothers. Dingo's voice was raised a little louder than it was before. Nothing of the kind that may agitate another conflict. Well, I suppose if any of us wants to throw something of that kind at the Uma-Undars, we would ask young Moungi sitting here quiet and looking all innocent, said Mumundi, turning his eyes to the one among them who had not said a word ever since. Oh, not Moungi, said Sundo, feigning a look of shock on his face. Not our beloved sweet brother, who has not touched his spear since it came from the spirit's forgeries. Ah, not even to beat the dust off it he has not, said Longi, adding another arrow to his pile. What did he throw? Certainly he did not throw his spear, said Dingo, trying not to sound serious, which he failed to do. He threw his spear. Mumundi was laughing between his words as he spoke. Threw it where? On the other side? And how did he get it back and hang it on the wall up there? Asked Sundo, pointing at Moungi's weapon that leaned against the wall behind him. Not that spear, you idiot. The one on his loins. His cock! The others all marveled. Ah, his cock it was, answered Mumundi. He fucked one of the royal daughters. He fucked her on the river rock right under the moonlight. And what did the river do about it? What did father do about it? Nothing. Still as stone, quiet as a leafless tree in winter, was the one called Moungi. And when he finally opened his mouth to speak, a silence went before him that muted the other 4 brothers off their jape. Some things father should do something about, like murdering a fellow brother, he said. Honorable dad, not murder, Mumundi objected to him. But you would know nothing about honor, would you, now, Moungi? I know that Nianini's death was wrong. He's sleeping with the enemy's daughters, right? Making peace is. Upon hearing that answer, Mumundi spat onto the fire. It was a sign of enmity to spit while looking another in the eye. You hear that, brothers? This is what happens when you make peace with the Uma-Undars. Next, we invite them into our beds and wake up with our throats slit. Have you forgotten what we were taught about the past? Yes, no one knows better than the ancestors, agreed Dingo. Let peace not fool you, Moungi, my brother, about the people that live on the southern shore. I do not know how you got your way with the river, but dealing with them will come unforgivable to most this side of the river, especially those who remember. Punishable, not unforgivable, said Mumundi, eyeing Moungi with a cold stare. Sundo and Longi remained quiet. Just like they remained quiet the last time Mumundi condemned another brother of arms on another evening not so long ago, observed Langa, the spirit of the river. Yes, she warned the Khosi, their father, 13 years ago when he fasted for 10 days and nights under the river. All I ask is 10 years, Nongo said to her then. 10 days under water, no food, no air. A sacrifice in exchange for 10 years of your watchful peace. Please, Langa, please. 10 years of peace will not undo the decades of war that lie behind and ahead of your people, son of Nongao, Langa told him. It is not the river that runs between your people, but the one that runs in them you must trade peace with. Blood will stir, anger will wake, and hands will itch for their spears again, soon enough. However that may be, let the one who takes my place after me deal with it, man, when it comes, replied Nongo. For all my life I was born, I have never tasted the sweetness of peace. Let me savor it and go to my grave in a quieter song than my fathers went before me. What is there to savor in a drop on the ocean? Said Langa. Your well is deep and as salty as the ocean. 10 years will dissipate in your tongue before it can quench your thirst. A drop is better than nothing. I will know peace before I die. You will know no peace, my good Khosi. You are Nongo Thongi-Serougii. Your song will shake the rock of your grave, and you will live ever on in the land that your name conquered, for as long as the river of your blood flourishes into generations to come. Then teach my people humility, man. Show my children the power of your strength, that they will know the place of fear next to valor, and find a better cause to pick up their spears. There was never a cause to pick up spears, only that of one's self-glorified pursuit. But I will grant you what you ask, if only to see my waters cleansed of the blood of your people for a short while. And now that short while has passed, and Langa's watch was over. 13 years of my watch, 3 more years is more than I promised, she reflected. Now blood stirs in the hearts of his sons. Did he think he would be gone to the grave by the time each one set their eyes on his tlogotlalo? In Bahura language, tlogotlalo means lion's throne, and when a man comes to the lion's throne, he brings the world with him. He takes on from where the last Khosi left, and if he is the greatest among his kind, raises a larger following of warriors, gathers a bigger herd of cattle, weds as many wives, the most beautiful daughters his heart could desire, and claims more land to his name. Not because of his family name, not because of some royalty that links him to his grandfathers, but from his ability to raise his spear higher and keep his strength in battle unmatched by the other male members of the tribe. The Nongo that sat on the Tlogotlalo before pleading for peace from the river was no better than his sons are now. He chose 5 wives for himself, each one a tale of blood, triumph and glory, who each gave birth to him a boy child. First to be born was Tingo, son of Nondombi, the first Khosigazi. His coming was born under a night of a violent storm, the 6th evening after days of endless rain. That night, Nongo's hope neither quailed at the roar of thunder troubling the night of his first child at birth. He waited outdoors under the beating pouring tide, with his great spear in his hand. Every man within the walls of the stronghold wore no garb of slumber that evening, but waited to welcome the new sparer. When at last out of Guabeletwa, the house of birth-giving, came a piercing cry that shook the senile world, the storm fell still, and the shadows were split apart, heralding the dawn of a new day. Tingo had been born. Ever till now, in his years coming of age, his father called him Tingo Veliwe, the one who paves the way, recalling how the storm stood out of the way once he was born. For in the next 3 days, Sundo, Mumundi and Longi were born under sunny skies, red dawn and golden sunset, which no storm travelled upon. Tingo's word was final. Of all the 5, he was the only whose voice represented Nongo when he wasn't among his sons. Therefore he was fair and wise in his ways, never revealing the true measure of his strength than he guided the others as he could. Next came Sundo, who was a lot like Tingo, but more competitive than as withdrawn as Tingo was. Sundo did not care to lead where Tingo already did, or aspire to the role of the bigger brother, or desire for the same prize in most given situations. Often he left judgment to Tingo and agreed with most of his terms, while Tingo had a lesser mind to hold winning titles, leaving them to go Sundo's way. And for that, the 2 were the most at ease with each other amongst the 5. "You have a good aim and draw at the spear," would say Tingo, complimenting Sundo as he yielded the title of Master of the Leaping Deer over to him. Mumundi was born on the 3rd day after Tingo's birth. Joy was the night at the Thongi-Serougii. The moon was full and bright, but no wolf's cry was heard from afar the mountains that night, not before Mumundi broke his first cry. To this day, his fierce voice has followed him, making him the boldest in speech and deeds of all the 5. Mumundi is the first to step forward and the last to withdraw whenever a challenge is at hand. He never wears fear or fright or reverence before anyone he crosses paths with, not even the elders. For he would soon have no one lead before him on the march to glory and greatness, and for that, often his wheel collided with the rest of the brothers, as was, not so long ago, an incident took place at the Lawa on his account. But that is a story for another day. Longi was born on the 4th day after Tingo, his hour of coming during noon, when the sun soared above the highest clouds. Then a good spear thrower as Sundo was, Longi was master of the bow string and loved it above the spear. But Nongo had 5 sons, and here was one, gathered apart from the animated crowd, and as silent as any other tale could easily forget him until now. His name was Moungi, and his tale was intertwined with the fate of the Bahure people, and it was just about to begin.